There we go. We're recording. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Healthy Conversations. This question came in from one of you. And the question essentially is it okay? I think she actually said, is it bad to have a weight loss goal when you are working on weight loss or trying to change your behaviors? In other words, a specific number. Is it bad to have a specific number? Is that what she said is that self-sabotage? And it's an interesting, you know me, there's never a simple answer for all of these things. There's so many nuances. But here's where I start with this conversation, which is, I don't think that the weight loss number, the actual specific number on the scale, is particularly useful. In other words, it's not helping you in the way that you think it is. Sort of, we've been conditioned to think of weight loss as we have one number on the scale, and then our entire focus is on decreasing that number so that there is a smaller number on the scale, right? And if anybody has worked with me for any period of time, you'll know that I have a completely different lens when I look at what we're trying to get to, and that is a person that you are becoming, right? And this particular person who asked the question, she knows about who I am becoming. So she even said in her question, if I know I'm becoming someone new, is it still useful for me to have a weight loss goal? And what I mean by who I am becoming is anybody who wants to lose weight, who has a desire to lose weight, the catalyst for that desire is because they feel like there's some beneficial or positive feeling on the other side of that goal. And so the weight loss, the number on the scale, becomes a representation of that feeling that they want to get to. So these things could be like, I will feel more confident. I will feel more peaceful. I will feel more freedom. I will feel more happy. I will feel more joy. All kinds of things, right? But the point is, the weight loss number on the scale is a representation of the feeling that they want to feel. And so in a lot of my work, I redirect people to the feeling, and then we match the behaviors with the desired feeling, right? So what kind of behaviors match up with that feeling that you want to feel, right? What kind of food behaviors, what kind of movement behaviors make you feel more confident, powerful, self-confident, happy, joy, peaceful, freedom, easy, right? So that's kind of the process. So where does the number on the scale fit into that? And here's what I will say is, while you all know, if you've been with me for any period of time, I think losing weight is just fine. If that's what you want to do and you're doing it from a healthy, aligned place, and it's not coming from the place of, shame and degradation and criticism and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of work to be done around that. If you just know, hey, you know what? My actions, behaviors, thoughts, emotions, and way I act around food and movement are not my most aligned self. And if I were acting in ways that were my more aligned self, then I think that my shape and size would change. Great. That's healthy weight loss, in my opinion, and I'm not afraid of that. But when we talk about making a goal weight number, the question really is, well, will it serve me to have that goal weight? Is that going to help me? Or is there an opportunity for that to get in my way of becoming the person that I want to become, like I just explained, okay? And so in my view, having a goal weight can often get in the way of becoming the person that you want to become. Now, when I say that, I'm saying this very carefully and methodically, because please don't mistake this with, I don't think you should want to lose weight, right? We just discussed there are many, many, many ways to make sure that your focus on that is in a very healthy way. And make sure that your desire for weight loss comes from a healthy, aligned place. But we want to make sure that having a goal weight does not deter you from becoming the person that you want to become. So here's how this can play out, is that we often set our weight loss goals from an arbitrary place. Not all the time, but Sometimes. And so what this can look like is we are, we've come up with a number in our head. And the question is, well, where did we come up with it from? Is that a weight that you have been before? Is that a weight that you've attained in a sustainable way? Do we have any evidence that that weight is the sort of natural aligned place for you? Where did that weight itself come from? Now, don't get me wrong. There is a way to have a healthy weight loss goal because there is some data behind it, right? Like when I am living my most aligned, happiest, and healthiest life with these types of behaviors, my weight tends to kind of naturally settle out in this pound range, right? Okay, that has some valid data behind it. And in that case, you can use that range. I would never use a specific number. I would use a range, as this range usually matches up with me executing the healthiest and happiest behaviors that are sustainable for me over time. And that's when I know that I'm doing the healthiest and happiest behaviors for myself, is when I'm in this range. Great. That might be serving you. A way that it's not serving you is if you just arbitrarily pick a number for all kinds of reasons, right? Because you think that's the weight you're supposed to be. You think that you can't be happy until you get to that weight. You think that that weight means something about you, about success or failure. And if it's over this weight, that's bad. And over that weight, that's good. Those things can derail you because there isn't any evidence. There's no data behind it. There's only belief, emotion, thought, feeling about the weight. Let me see if I can make this a little bit more easy to digest. When you are, and this is ultimately where all of my clients are trying to get to, right? Is that when I'm living my most aligned life, being the person that I have written that I want to become, and executing the behaviors that make me feel all of the things that I said I wanted to feel: joy, peace, ease, freedom, confidence, whatever those words are, then I tend to stay in this type of weight range when I'm doing those things consistently. That weight range has data behind it, right? It has some evidence for when I'm living my most aligned life, these are the types of results that my body really enjoys. Great, that has some evidence. But when your weight that you have decided that you want to weigh does not have any evidence behind it, and if the evidence behind it sounds something like, oh yeah, I can get to that weight if I don't eat anything for 3 months and I work out for 4 hours a day and I'm miserable and that doesn't feel good, that's not evidence, right? Notice what I said. When you are being the person that you want to be and feeling the way that you want to feel and living the aligned life that you want to live on a somewhat consistent basis, this is where my body shakes out. That is your data for being able to use weight in an effective way. And unless you have that data, a weight loss goal is not super, it's just not super helpful because it's not telling you anything, right? So a way to kind of reverse engineer this is, if you can focus on executing your consistent behaviors for a long enough period of time. What I mean by consistent, all of my students know what this means, but all of your consistent behaviors are the behaviors that are aligned, that make you feel like the healthiest and happiest version of yourself, that vibrationally, energetically, emotionally, mentally, you know, hey, these are the behaviors that serve me and serve the highest and best version of my body. And when I do these things consistently, I feel best, my body feels best, I look my best, I'm executing at my best. Okay. So your focus is on those behaviors consistently. And then you can watch what happens with the scale. You can watch. Now, remember, it's got to be over time. It can't be a 3-day process or a 7-day process because it's a topic for a totally different day. But the scale is going to do this. That's what the scale does, right? We expect things to be a linear downward process. That's not how it works. Our focus is on consistency of behavior. So rather than having a scale goal, have a consistency of behaviors goal. Now, the reason why I keep saying consistency of behaviors is because those behaviors are different for everybody. For some people, that's tracking something. For some people, that's counting calories. For some people, that's a carbohydrate goal. For some people, that's a water goal, a movement goal, an exercise goal. There's all kinds of things. Consistency of behaviors that make you feel most aligned, like your happiest and healthiest self over time, is going to give you the best data for what happens and what you can focus on for your number on the scale. So I know this is not sexy and people always want the quick fix, but I would suggest focusing on consistency of behaviors and pointing yourself back to how consistent can I be with my behaviors over time while creating a calorie deficit. If that's what you're looking to do, if you're looking to lose weight, you got to create a calorie deficit. So consistency of behaviors in a calorie deficit over like a 6-month period, and see what happens with your data, with your number on the scale. Okay. And then you will start to have a better idea of whether or not your number on the scale is supporting you or getting in your way. Because here's the flip side of this. If your focus is on the number on the scale, and we don't have any evidence for whether or not that's a good number for you, right? Like maybe you could get to that number, but what it would take for you to get to that number would make you miserable, is not sustainable, would make you rebound, would trigger you to binge eat. Then what good is that number to you, right? What good is that number to you? Because as I will go all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, if you pick a number that is not realistic or sustainable for your body, then when you get to that number, which you thought was a representation of your happiness, and you're miserable, you'll realize, what good is that number for me? That number does you no good. So the only time the number supports you is if it's a true representation of you living your happiest, healthiest, most sustainable life. And then that data correlates, if that makes sense. And so when I get people to that point and the data is correlating with their happiest, healthiest, most consistent, sustainable self, then we can look at, okay, here's what that number looks like. In order for me to keep reducing that number, here's what it's going to take from a behavior standpoint. Do I want to do those things or not really, right? If you have achieved that number in the way that I teach people to do, you'll be able to look at your levers and go, you know what, I'd have to pull this lever a little more. That doesn't feel so good. So I'm either happy staying here, or you can say, actually, I'd fine with pulling that lever a little more. I got here in a positive way, and I know how I got here, and it feels aligned for me and consistent for me and sustainable for me. So now I can make a decision and say, oh yeah, I'd like to pull that lever a little more. I can do that. I can do that and feel good. I can do that and feel consistent. I can do that and feel proud and confident and happy and all the things I wrote in my Who I Am Becoming. So then we decide, and when I mean levers, the levers are input and output, right? So exercise and energy intake. And we can pull on those levers and say, well, here's the number, that reminder, when you're doing everything consistently over time, that makes you feel the things that you wrote in your Who I Am Becoming that said, I'm happy, I'm peaceful, I'm confident, I'm consistent, I'm committed, I feel joy. Great, you're doing that consistently. You know what it takes to get to this data point, this range in your weight. Now, would you like to pull the levers a little harder? How will that change for you emotionally? Well, I can pull the levers harder, but that's going to make my life not fun. Great, do you want to do that or not? Right? See, that's how we get to the sort of appropriate weight range for you that is helpful and not self-sabotaging, if that makes sense. So this is my very long-winded way, and then I'll check the comments here. It's my very long-winded way of saying picking a goal weight just isn't that helpful. It doesn't help you unless you have the data of who you are becoming and your consistency of behaviors and the types of behaviors that you can stick to, and longevity and sustainability over time. Just the number on the scale is not that helpful. So it's not that I discourage you ever from having one. It's that hopefully today's video helped with the nuance that will explain, is the number on the scale useful for me or not so much? All right, let me check to see if you have any questions on that. Okay, looks like just likes so far. So, all right, no questions. Hopefully that was helpful. If you want me to follow up to that, or if you have more questions on that, just let me know. If you're not already on my email list, I highly suggest getting on my email list, because now there's a formal way to submit questions to me. It actually just went out today, the first email. That's an Ask Eliza submission. So you can submit a question to me. It's all anonymous. And I will answer it on a video like this in depth for you. And I send that out, that Ask Eliza submission, once a month. So you can submit a question to me and we'll hit it on a Healthy Conversations Live. All right. Hope that was helpful. See you all next week.